Okay.
Now that'll let the attendees in. Let's see.
Okay.
Not too many attendees either.
Nope.
Well, means we can move it along. Right, Philly Willie? You don't get,
Mary Deerix will be a presenter, right?
Yes, she's one of the presenters. Okay, well, let's start this meeting. Hello and welcome to everyone. This is the Landmarks Committee of Manhattan Community Board 2. And I think everyone who is here, all our attendees, I think are familiar with the drill, but just in case, I'll review it. Each applicant will present his or her application. After each presentation, the members of the Landmarks Committee will have the opportunity to question and interact with the applicant. After that, we'll open it up to members of the public to comment, and then we will move on to the next application until we've gone through all 5, after which we will have our business session. Everybody, applicants and attendees, are all more than welcome to stay through that. But please understand that during the business session, only the committee members are able to speak or may speak. And that's pretty much it. The full board meeting is a week from tonight at the 75 Morton School. And of course, everybody is welcome. All members of the public and presenters are welcome to attend that meeting as well. Our member, Eugene Yu, who is on Zoom, will be elevating applicants in order of the agenda. If anyone has not been listed, did not inform the community board that they would be presenting as the application is called, kindly raise your hand and Eugene will present. I'm the vice chair. Chenault Spence is our chair, but he won't be able to join us for a good chunk of the meeting. So I'll preside over this meeting. We do not seem to have a quorum yet. To my left is Anita Brandt, board member. The other board members here are Chenault Spence and Eugene Yu. I don't see anybody else. Eugene, is there anybody else?
I'm looking on the attendee list. I don't see anyone else. If I see anyone from the committee or from the general board, I will elevate them as I see them.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, hopefully some others will be joining, but I don't see any reason to wait. And so we will begin with our first application, which is 276 West 11th Street. The application is to convert the existing 2-family dwelling to a single family, reconstruct the original brownstone stoop, modify existing arched parlor level windows, restore the front facade, modify the existing rear facade openings, extend the cellar foundation at the rear yard for a skylight, construct a metal deck and staircase at the rear yard, and replace existing dormer and studio skylights with rooftop addition. So you can see it's quite an extensive application. So if we can promote our presenter, and if our presenter can be ready to screen share.
Okay.
Hello,
Josh.
I'm Josh.
I have 2 others on the list from Florence. Do you need anyone else from your team to be promoted? The other 2 declined. So
they can join to listen, but I'm going to do the talking. So it's
okay, great. All right, go ahead.
Okay, great. So would you like me to share the presentation on my screen?
Yes,
okay,
you should be able to.
Yep. Okay, great. So can you see my opening screen?
Yep.
Great. So thanks so much for having me. My name is Josh Lekwa. I'm a principal at Elizabeth Roberts Architects. And we are here to talk about 276 West 11th Street. The basics real quick, it's an 1852 townhouse. It was built as a pair with number 278, which is next door. The house was built in the Italianate style as a single family townhouse. The house was extensively altered in 1924, according to the landmarks designation, when the building was converted to an apartment building. At that time, the stoop was removed, and numerous alterations were made to the building inside and out. And the facade was extensively altered to create a kind of eclectic neo-federal sort of pastiche facade that exists today with no stoop. And so our application, as far as landmarks is concerned, as far as the public hearing is concerned, really consists of three parts. The first part is the restoration of the facade. The second part is the addition to the roof. And the third part is the work at the rear facade, which is less extensive than the first two. So let's just start with the front facade. I'm sorry, there's a problem with my PDF, but the 1940s tax photo is supposed to be here in the middle of the screen. I apologize. The image on the left is a view of the block in 1933. The image on the right is a very blurry picture taken from 1960s. Landmarks is working on getting us a copy of their designation photograph taken in 1969. Which is quite clear, they said, and they will get that to us to include in the public hearing.
Okay.
This is a site plan showing its location on West 11th Street. There's been a lot of construction on West 11th Street over the last few years, so I imagine that you all know this street backwards and forwards. The house is on the south side of the block. The front facade faces north. The interior of the back facade of the house faces the kind of donut, which is, and no part of the back is visible from the street. This is a collage of the houses on the south side of West 11th Street. So there's a mixture of red brick row houses from the mid 19th century and one fairly good-sized apartment building from the early 20th century. Here's our house. Our house is the one that's painted red, so it has arched windows on the parlor floor. The front door has been moved down to the street level, and the building to the right of it, which is sort of an orange toned brick with brownstone trim, was built as a twin to this building. So when they were new, they matched. They were the same, as far as we know. And then they were both altered in the 20th century to become apartment buildings, and they both lost their stoop. And then some time ago, number 278 was turned back into a single family residence, and the facade was reinstated to its pre-1924 appearance. And essentially what we are proposing to do is to do the same. Here's an image of the two houses next to each other. Oh, interestingly, I should note that although our project was modified in the 1920s and kind of acquired this sort of neo-federal appearance that it has today, they retained the historic cornice. So the historic cornice is there and the two cornices match, which is lovely. And so that is one aspect of the facade which we are not proposing to change other than just to repaint it. This is a drawing of our house with the neighbors showing the areas of change. So basically the windows will all be removed. The window lintels, the surface will be taken off to prepare for new window lintels. Of course, if they're structurally damaged, they'll be completely replaced. All the brownstone comes off, the existing street level entry is removed. And then there's extensive work at the roof, but we can leave that for when we're talking about the roof. So a view of the proposed work shows that starting at the front door, we're proposing to reinstate a stoop to match the neighbors, reinstate a parlor level entry with a brownstone surround to match the neighbors. Ironwork at the street level in line with the current ironwork. It's not a very large areaway. New 6/6 windows on most floors except 6/9 on the parlor floor because they go to the floor. We're proposing new cast stone lintels and sills for the windows that would be of a similar detailing to the neighbor's house. We also propose to strip the paint off the existing brick, which doesn't seem like it will be a problem. We're in the process of getting a test patch done right now, but it wasn't we weren't able to get it done for the meeting today. But the brick appears to be in reasonably good condition, and the neighbors did the same with good results. So that's our plan. The one thing that we are not proposing to copy about the neighbors is when the neighbors did the conversion that we're talking about, I don't know, I think it was about 15 years ago, they put back a double door in their house. And I think that that is actually more historically appropriate than what they have today. A few years ago, that house changed hands and the owner installed the single leaf sort of Greek revival style door, which is attractive. I think it's anachronistic to the house. And so we're not proposing to emulate that detail. We think that a double door is probably for an 1852 Italianate house what it would have had. And so that's what we are proposing to put back. Here's just a color sort of rendering of the facade with the various elements called out. So we're calling out a brownstone surround around.
Yes.
Sorry. We're proposing a brownstone surround around the front door, a black painted paneled solid double door with a transom above and a lantern. This image is actually of a house across the street. Just to show the sort of the type of door we're talking about and the context of oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, I misspoke. This image is the door at 278 West 11th before it was modified in 2017. So we're proposing to put back something like this. An image showing the stoop with the ironwork, an upper floor window, and then the stucco image refers to the rooftop addition, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Here's just a little more detail about the proposed windows and how they relate to what's there now. So the windows on the upper floors don't change in size. The size was maintained. The only thing that's changing is the detailing of the heads and the sills. The windows on the parlor floor, when they were turned into arch windows, there's very clearly an outline of the original window remaining on the brick today. And so we would just be restoring it to those dimensions, which match the neighbors. Here are images of the existing street level entrance, which would be removing and restoring a stoop. So the stoop would go right where this entrance is, and then the areaway, which is pictured here to the right, would more or less stay on the same plan. Here's a view showing what the neighbors did. Again, they had the same situation. Their house had the stoop removed. It was converted to an apartment, and then when it was converted back to single family, they put the stoop back. Here are images of the windows, existing windows in the upper floor, the parlor and the upper floors of the building. And these are images of the neighbors showing what the windows would look like after restoration or after our project. Here are some detailed views of the bricks. So I don't know how easy this is to see on a computer screen, but the brick clearly changes around the head of the windows, and it's possible to see the outline of where the window lintels and the original non-arched windows went. This detailed picture shows the brick on 278 on the right and our brick that's been painted, which we think will clean up pretty easily. Here are some photos. Now we're getting up to the proposed work at the roof. So here are some photos showing the visibility of the current roofscape. So this building, let's see if I remember our slides in order here. So this building has a rather complicated roof. It has two of these sort of sawtooth skylights on it. It also has two separate full story extensions that don't touch each other. So it has kind of four little buildings on the roof. And the two full story extensions are kind of little pop-ups for the apartments beneath them. And then there are these skylights. And one of these full story extensions has a little dormer window on it that overlooks the street. So there is some visibility, mostly of the dormer. The actual skylight itself slopes back a bit from the plane of the building, and it isn't very visible from across the street. Although if you go down the block, you catch the top corner of it. It's not a highly visible skylight, though. The dormer is pretty quirky. That you can see. So our proposed project is to I apologize. There's a problem with this file that there should be a massing of the building here. Shoot. Well, I'm just gonna have to explain it to you with the drawings.
Josh,
What's that?
can you zoom in at all? Sometimes the PDFs, the images go away. I also sent you another one just in case.
That doesn't have this problem. Well, I think I should just keep talking because ultimately I think I can explain what's going on. So,
Excuse me for a moment. If you would like to pause for a moment and see if your colleagues, the file that your colleague just sent you is more complete, that's totally fine.
okay, great. Then if that's okay with you, then I will do that. Thank you so much.
Sure,
Just give me one moment.
of course.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
There's always got to be some kind of computer glitch. It wouldn't, it doesn't count unless there's some problem. Okay, I think we're back in business. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So here's the historic tax photo. I'm sorry, this is going back a little bit, but it's important to look at it. So here's the historic tax photo, and you can see the weird little dormer that we're talking about is up there. I don't know if that was added in the 1920s when the building was converted or if it was added later. But there it is. Okay, let's just go back to a full screen view of this.
And it's still there, is that right?
It's still there. Yeah, it's still there.
So,
And we propose to eliminate it. And I imagine that, of all the things that we're talking about, that people may have feelings about this, but I'm sorry, bear with me.
Should be at the bottom right, Josh.
No, I see that it's just a heavy file and my computer's freezing. I'm so sorry. Just one moment. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to go forward with the file without the images because this file just won't work. So I apologize, and we'll keep going. So this is a building section, a sightline diagram showing the proposed addition in relation to the building and that it's not visible from the street. This is the line of sight. The front edge of our building is just behind the sight line. It's actually further away from the street than the current studio skylight is. And here are some images that show the rather complex landscape of buildings on the roof of the building. Let me just take this from the top left. So this is a view standing on top of one of the penthouse additions, looking to the rear of the building, which I think is not the most important view for you. This is a view standing on top of one of the penthouse additions, looking to the front of the building. And so you're seeing the top of our roof addition is in orange. It's the same height as the existing penthouses. And the front edge of it is where this orange line is here. Here is a view standing on top of one of the penthouses, again, looking at where our addition, this is the back of the addition, this is the front of the addition, and the top of it is in plane with these roofs that we're standing on. So it's not taller than what's there now, it's just in a different shape. And here, just another view of the same. So moving back to the drawings. Oh, I'm sorry. The next portion is moving to the rear facade. So we'll come back to this. Here just are views of the existing rear facade of the building. So we have kind of a collage. So on the left, you're looking at 278 West 11th Street. In the middle is our building. And then on the right, you're looking at 274 West 11th Street. For context, this is part of one of those extensions which was added to the roof of the building at some point, we think in the 1920s. And our proposal is to eliminate this little tower. So here's a view of the existing. And here's a view of the proposed rear facade. So our work floor by floor is to install a large window on the ground floor, to install a new deck at the parlor floor, to install a large window at the parlor floor matching the size of the one on the ground floor. Oh, and none of this is visible from the street. The deck will have a steel railing. We are not proposing to enlarge the footprint of the building on the back. The deck will be the same depth as the neighbor's addition on the left side, but we aren't going out farther than neighbors, and the back plane of our facade is staying in the same place. We propose to respace the windows on the upper floors to a more regular design. They're currently, as you can see, quite asymmetrical. We don't know if this was the original configuration or if they were altered this way when they put the tower on the back of the building, but we want to put the windows back so that they're lined up in the position that these windows presumably originally were. So we're respacing them. There are wood windows in a sort of French door style with Juliet balconies on the second floor. And on the third floor, there are 6/6 windows, which will match the front facade. There'll be a brick cornice at the top, which is dentilled, and it'll match the details of the cornice that's there now. And then at the roof, there's an addition, which is set significantly back and is going to be a light colored stucco. So here's a rendering of the rear facade of the building, showing an upper floor window here, what it's going to look like, the proposed railing for the deck here, a precedent for the second floor window, which is a French door style window here, and then the light colored stucco rooftop addition up here. Here are some views of the existing conditions. So the, I'm sorry, I should say this is important. I didn't talk about this in the context of alterations. So we are proposing to rebuild the rear facade rather than just move the openings around within it. The changes to the openings are extensive enough that we feel that the brick would not be of a good appearance when the work is completed. And also the work, as you can see, the brick facade has been previously pointed, and we think it's been pointed quite badly. The joints are extremely wide. The mortar that they used is really hard, and it's bright white, and it just sort of stands out like a sore thumb. So we think that whenever this facade was altered, they really did a poor job of maintaining what would have been the original appearance of this. So we propose to reconstruct this wall to bring it back in line with what we think it ought to have looked like. And then the view on the right is the little tower with the balcony at the top, which we propose to remove. So here are just views of the windows on the different floors. Here's a section of the existing building showing these two rooftop additions. These are about 1/3 of the width of the building, and they run fully from front to back, but they actually don't touch each other. So the only way to get into them is to go up a stairway in the back or to go up a stairway in the front. And the proposed addition is in the center of the building, and it spans the width of the lot. Here's just a view showing a section cut through the building, cut through our addition. The addition we propose to have an 8-foot ceiling in the inside. The addition total height would be 10 feet from the floor of the addition to the top of the roof of the addition. And again, here's the section sightline diagram. And then there's just a lot of detail on the windows. I don't think you maybe want me to go through all this since a lot of the window work would be staff level. But there is a detailed drawing of the proposed door surround and of the panel door. And there's detailed drawings of the windows at the rear of the building. And then there's some photographs of the existing areaway. I just wanted to get to the end because there are, and we can come back and focus on these plans if you have questions about them. There are 3 precedent projects I just wanted to mention that are right in this area. So 70 Bank Street, which is around the corner, similarly had a complete facade restoration done by Stephen Harris Architects a few years ago. The building had been stripped of all of its detail. The stoop was gone, and they put back a stoop with a cast stone surround and a beautiful door and all the windows and restored the historic cornice. So this was approved at public hearing. 73 Perry Street was recently approved at public hearing. So in this context, there's also a twin house situation. So 73 and its neighbor were twin houses. At some point in the 20th century, 73 Perry Street was altered. It had a kind of distinctive oriel window installed where the stoop would have been, and then the entrance was moved to the basement. Landmarks approved them removing that alteration, which was a significant alteration, but they approved removing that alteration to allow the installation of a new front door at the stoop level and surround and stoop to match the neighbor. So this is actually the closest precedent to what we're proposing. And then across the street at 268 West 11th Street, similarly, there was a townhouse that had kept its cornice, but all of the other facade details were lost. And this building was approved at public hearing. The project is by Seldorf Architects, and they recently have completed this, and this building has been restored. The facade has been restored per this proposal. The one very relevant approval that we don't have in here is, of course, the neighboring building, which was done about 15 years ago. And we've put in a records request to Landmarks, but they haven't located that presentation yet. So when we get that, we would love to put that in here and show you what they had and what Landmarks approved, but we know that it was approved and it was built. So that's my whole presentation. I imagine you'll have lots of questions for me.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I have just a few to start. If you could share with us what it is in particular about your application that that inspired it coming to a public hearing, because a lot of this looks approvable at staff level. So I'm just wondering what the specific points were that.
Yeah, let me just go straight to the front of the building. So I'm going all the way back to the front. So according to Landmarks, there's sort of, I think there's 2 things to this. One is that we do not, because this building was changed in the 1920s, there is no photo that shows that the building originally had a stoop and what the windows look like. And there's no documentation that says like, here's what we're putting it back to. Now, we know that it looked that way. We know these buildings were twins. They have the same cornice. The designation report says they were built as twins, but I can't show you a picture of that. So there's a bit of conjecture to this. I think there is a feeling that the conversion of this building to an apartment, frankly, is charming. You know, the facade is pretty for what it is. It's not like the worst apartment conversion ever. And so I think that they felt that this was worthy of consideration by the full commission. And then I think there's also just the size of the project. So they just said, well, it's not one specific thing. It's just all of these things together.
Okay, great. I have another couple of questions, but I'm going to pause them for a minute because I know that Chenault may have a little time bind and his hand is up. So Chenault, why don't you go ahead and then I'll continue with my questions. You're muted, Chenault.
Unmute.
In the approval of the next door house, was there any discussion that this is indeed a reasonable replication of the original? Did that come up?
Well, So the original house was approved, I'm sorry, 278 was approved like 15 years ago, let's say. And I don't have a record of what was said at that public hearing. And we also don't have a record of their presentation. But we've put in a records request from Landmarks and we hope that we'll find some more. The reality is that they did approve it, that we know. But we
And
don't
looking
know
at
what
it,
the
I would say
discussion
that we
was.
approved it as well.
What's that? Oh, and
I
yeah,
said
you
that we
approved it too as
approved it
well,
as well.
probably. But I'm sorry I can't enlighten you as to the thought about how they got to this exact reconstruction.
Okay,
Was that your only question, Chenault?
yeah, we would normally say that if they had approved something, that's a good representation of something that could be copied, so that's what's
Sure.
happening.
Okay. All right. My other question I want to confirm, do you think that those dormers were in the 1920s renovation of the building?
So I think that let's see, let's go to that page with the pictures of the roof.
Or do you think they were later?
Well, so I think this portion, let's see here, sorry, okay. So I think the studio skylight, the sort of canted skylight, I think that definitely is the 1920s. It just seems like it, right?
Yeah.
The dormer is so odd and it doesn't work, it doesn't fit very harmoniously with the skylight that it's kind of hard for me to believe that it would have been done at the same time.
Right.
It seems to me like whoever did this conversion was sort of sensitive, like they had some sort of taste. And this dormer is just really ugly, but it could be that it was done at that time. I don't know.
Yeah.
So apart from the weirdness of it, I don't have any evidence. But I think the weirdness is kind of a sort of evidence that it doesn't seem like it's of a piece.
Right. It's not really coherent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, am I correct in assuming that this addition is not visible from anywhere on any streetscape, neighboring streetscape?
That is correct.
Okay, great, thanks. And I think I had one more. Oh, yeah, the application includes an extension of the cellar foundation, and I don't
yeah.
believe we talked about that.
Sorry, let's go there. I'm going to show you this in plan. Oh, here, let's look at it in section first. So basically what our clients would like to do is they would like to create a light well at the back of the cellar, kind of similar to a coal chute, but a bit wider. Put in a skylight in it and have some natural light come into the cellar. So we're excavating out at the cellar level, but not to this extent of the property line. And that's shown here in section. So I'm just
So how many feet is that? How deep and how far out are you going?
Depth from the yard to the bottom of the foundation is probably going to be something like 10 feet, but the internal ceiling height of it is something like 8 feet. There's just more, structure. And then the width of it, I'm coming up to it. The width of it is 17 feet wide. And it's 7 feet deep off the building. So it's shown here in plan. And then here at grade, there would be a series of walkable skylights that would be flush with the grade.
And is there any kind of underpinning that's required for any of this?
We're not proposing to underpin anything. Our neighbor on the left side underpinned our building when they did their renovation years ago. And so that side already goes down quite deep. On the left side, we're holding ourselves off the property line and we're not underpinning that building. We don't want to get into any underpinning. So we've done
Because you're sufficiently off of the property line.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, those were my questions. Anita, do you have anything?
Sure, yeah, I have a few questions. I don't see any photographs taken from down the street. Or, you're saying we can't see it. There's no visibility of any of the massing you did on the roof.
Yeah, but you're right. The presentation isn't,
We should see
we didn't show you that, so.
That would be useful because then we can make our own decision that it's not visible, because nobody can ever see additions from across the street. I don't know why we always do that diagram,
Yeah, I
but
understand.
like looking up, you can't see what's beyond. So I think that would be good to see.
Okay.
Sometimes down at the corner, you can see it. And are you heightening some chimneys or?
Yeah, there's one chimney that needs to be extended. So I think it's worth mentioning that the orange stuff, the orange netting is up there right now. And so if you wanted to walk around the block at some point, it's there. Let me go to a photograph that puts this thing in context. So on, these are hard to see, but on the right side, the building is a story, I'm sorry, on the left side, the building is a story taller than us. So we're just butting up to their building that's already taller. On the right side, they have a rooftop addition that is on our property line. It's not as big as ours, but it's about the same depth front to back. And it lines up to what we're doing. It's on our side of the building, basically. They have a big roof bulkhead. So our new structure is slotting in between these two existing things. And neither of those, their extension is not visible from the public. So I think we have a pretty good sense that like what we're doing is just not going to be visible either.
Okay, that's fine. And this is very picayune, and I apologize, but I'm looking at the details of the stoop, and I just wanted to point out that these stoops typically have a landing and then another step up. So I just want to make sure that you don't either go too far into the side, every inch matters in these conditions.
Oh, absolutely. You're totally right. So I mean, our intention is to copy the neighbors, and that's what theirs does. But you're right, like this stoop is going to have to go through the DOT revocable consent process, which is a whole big thing. So this is the first step of many in that process. But
just to add your last step.
Yeah, exactly. Like most of
And
it's
I don't see that on your drawings. I'm pointing it out so you'll catch it.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
all.
Yeah, thank you.
And let's see what else.
Susan, may I say something about that?
Yeah, hold your thought, Anita. Additional, yes.
The revocable consent, I would suggest that you formally ask us to pass judgment on that, and we will make a separate resolution in response to this application that will presumably recommend approval of that.
Okay, so
we'll save another step and return and a lot
Great.
of.
So after this meeting, we can send you a message saying that we're asking specifically for you to vote on the revocable consent as it relates to the stoop.
Thank you.
Great.
And could you just review this areaway design that you're proposing? I mean, when you come in through the gate, do you step down 1 or 2 steps?
Yeah, let's go to the, so here's a section through the areaway. So when you come in from the gate, you step down 1 step. Then you step down to the area underneath the stoop. We're proposing to put back a rusticated brownstone facade, that would match the neighbors.
And this ironwork on those windows, is that replicating something?
Well, it's directly copying the neighbors. But I
doesn't look very historic to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that I think we're pretty flexible about that ironwork. I think if that ironwork is something that needs to be adjusted, that could be done.
Excuse me for 1 second. Are you speaking generally about the ironwork in general here? Because it does seem like kind of weak.
Specifically about the window guard, but the ironwork in general, I think, without a historic tax, we don't know what this thing looked like in the 1850s. And so the best we have to go on is the neighbor, what they got approved. Having said that, and having walked around the block, there are a lot of different types of ironwork. And I think that one could make really good arguments for different styles or being less elaborate. And I think of that as one area where we're very open to hearing comments and making revisions as appropriate.
Now, how is it that you get from the sidewalk to the bottom of the cellar in 3-4 steps. That's a big drop there.
No, you don't. You come down 2 steps right away and then you come down.
Said one. I'm listening.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
I'm just being very specific because I know how tight it is.
Absolutely, you should be.
Susan, I'd like to make one final comment.
Please.
A question of the ironwork. In this reproducing faithfully the next door neighbor, even though they were originally done as one, we have so many instances of combining 2 brownstones to make a double house.
Oh, yeah.
And we very much like to be sure that things are reading as 2 separate buildings.
Oh, okay.
They are. And it may be that somehow not matching exactly the ironwork would help to dispel this notion that
Yeah,
they're.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, we're not looking to make a mega mansion. So the house is plenty big enough. So if we need to vary the ironwork to help reinforce that would certainly be fine.
Great, thank you. Did you have anything else, Anita?
Well, I just wanted, if we could just spend a minute on the elevation of the addition.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that somehow I'm having a little trouble with reading it properly. It looks so like that. That is what am I looking at?
Okay, so let's go to the front elevation. I'm sorry. I have a question. I realize you're going to vote in this committee, but then after this committee, there's going to be the full committee is going to meet, right?
The full board.
So if we were to send you a new presentation that doesn't have these corrupted files in it that are not showing up, would that be helpful to you? Or is that just so at this point, it's too late?
We won't be reviewing the drawings at the full.
Understood. Okay, fair enough. So let's just talk about this addition.
Yeah, just to talk me through that elevation.
So what we've got basically is there's a white stucco addition. It's 10 feet tall, including the structure of the roof. The ceiling height on the inside is 8 feet tall. The windows are very contemporary. There's no attempt to make this look like it was part of the historic house. It wasn't. And so intentionally, we're making the windows very minimal. They're steel windows. There's no muntins or mullions in them. They're just big pieces of glass. And the facade is very simple. There's a space here on the left, which is there's no glass there. And then the glass is all oriented here around the space where there will be a room inside. There's a railing on top because there's going to be mechanical equipment up there. So there's going to be a railing around it.
Oh, that's a railing. I didn't understand.
And the railing is going to be painted a light color. The whole thing is going to be a light color at the top. So it, if somewhere back, I don't know, somebody can get a view of this thing, at least from or even from the backyard, it's not going to stand out as a really dark thing up against the skyline of the building. That's the design. Do you have specific questions or things that I didn't perhaps
No,
explain?
thank you. I understand it now. I just couldn't quite visualize it. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Valerie or Eugene, have you got anything? Eugene, are you?
No, I think my question was around the visibility, but Anita asked that question for me, so you beat me to it.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak? If so, please raise your hand.
I don't see any
Yeah, I
hands
don't-
raised.
Okay, well then, thank you very much, Josh, and we'll move on to our next presentation. I would just like to just gratuitously add that as a matter of practice, whether or not when there's a mock-up, whether or not it's visible anywhere, we do like to see a demonstration of the fact that it is not. When it is not, we still like to see a demonstration of that. Thanks. All right, the next application is 39 Fifth Avenue. Eugene is elevating the presenter. The application is to install a steel arbor with retractable canvas awning on the southeast penthouse terrace. Steel will be painted white to match the historic window and trim color.
Great, thank you for joining. You can share your presentation from the Zoom. You should be able to do that. If there's anyone else in your team that you need elevated, if you could just have them raise their hands, I'll go ahead and elevate them.
Great. Can you see that presentation?
Yep.
Very good. My name is Michael Haverland. I'm the architect. Nice to see you, some of you again. Thank you for your time. This is a fairly simple project. We're just proposing an arbor on the terrace, the back terrace of 39 Fifth Avenue, which is between 10th Street and 11th Street. This is a drawing for context. Here we are with the specific location. And you can see in the back where we show the arbor in the lower right, which is in fact the southeast corner of the penthouse. Here's a three-dimensional view that shows the arbor in the back and a historic image of the facade. Current photographs of the facade. Context. Here's a detail of the arbor plan of the penthouse. But I'll just jump to the renderings because I think they show the story best. The arbor is only visible. It is in fact visible from University and 11th Street and a little bit of part of 11th Street. But other than that, it's not visible from anywhere on Fifth Avenue or 10th Street. We're proposing the arbor to be made of steel, consistent with the steel windows we have and the ironwork at the railing of the parapet. And we would like it to be charcoal black, so it basically disappears and is consistent with sort of the finish of historic ironwork on buildings of our era. And here's a view. It would have a retractable canvas awning. And here are photographs of the mock-up that basically show its relationship to the parapet. Please let me know if you have any questions or would like to flip back to any of the other images.
So it's anchored into the roof? Is that how structurally?
It's actually connected to the parapet. So we connect it to the parapet walls, which you can sort of see here. It'll rest on the roof, but it'll attach to the parapet walls so we don't penetrate the roof membrane.
Okay, is that that's it? Yes?
That's it. Yep. Simple
Okay.
project.
Short and sweet, thank you. I have a couple of questions, or I guess just one really. That canvas awning, is that a color? I mean, this sort of closed and open rendering here, it's hard to tell what.
It's
What
really an off-white retractable canvas awning, so
Off-white, okay.
it'll pretty much read like it does in that rendering, sort of a light color from below.
Okay, it's sort of the lack of visibility from everywhere else is kind of unfortunately, made up for by the huge amount of visibility from this one point. So thank you for being so clear about that.
Yes, we were thorough with the in the images before with various points along 11th Street to see what this sort of window is of visibility there.
Yeah.
For you.
All right. Does anybody here have any questions for Michael?
Do you have any lighting planned? I think Eugene has a question.
Oh, yeah, I just had a question on the materials, just in terms of reflectivity and, for sunlight, is any of it going to be, glinting out or reflecting sunlight, or is it, like a matte finish on the black?
It's a matte black finish, so it really reads like ironwork.
Okay.
The finish of historic ironwork, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. And we don't have any lighting. There are right now porch lights on the terrace, and those are all we'll have. In other words, there won't be any new lighting on the arbor.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Does anybody from the public have a question? Does not appear to be so. All
Great.
right. Well,
Thank you very much for your
very
time.
Michael. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Appreciate it.
All right, we will move on to 3 East 10th Street. The application is to replace front facade metal shutters with wood shutters and to legalize an elevator bulkhead.
Okay, I am promoting Mary Urix. She'll be rejoining as a panelist. Mary, once you join, you can share your screen. Good seeing you again.
Good evening. With me is March Chadwick, who's the architect for the project. He's here to answer questions if needed. His email starts with March.
Okay, he will be joining you as well. So he will be joining as a panelist in a second.
Good evening again. This is 3 East 10th, which is and March Chadwick, the architect, is here. This is in the village on East 10th between 5th and University. It's part of a row of 2, built in 1890 and designed by architect George Harney. This application is to legalize an elevator bulkhead on the roof and also the location of HVAC units on the roof. This is the building. The application was also, as described, for the installation of wood shutters to replace the metal shutters that had been installed. The shutters were removed today. There's a LPC permit already in place to install new wood shutters as approved. And the owner's plan is to follow that permit and the approval, which calls for these details, as it was approved in a public hearing in 2017. So we're removing this from our from what we're presenting, but it's still in the presentation, and you already read the description, so I wanted to kind of go over that so there's no confusion.
Excuse me, Mary. I just want to confirm. So that is now officially not part of this presentation due to a previous permit.
Yes.
Okay.
Shutters.
Yeah, the shutters. Yeah.
So
Okay.
2 things: the elevator bulkhead and the HVAC units both on the roof.
Got it. Thanks.
This is the elevator bulkhead that was built. It's not visible over the front facade at all, but it is visible through an alley between this building and the NYU dorm at Rubin Hall next door. This bulkhead was built next to the wall of the large building, which gives it less impact on the roofscape. That scaffolding there is protection because there's the building's being renovated. So it doesn't have anything to do with our application. The front elevation shows the elevator bulkhead. Sorry, which is 14.5 approximately feet high at the highest point. This is the front facade. This is the rear facade elevation, also showing the bulkhead and the HVAC units behind a pre-existing metal fence with pre-existing and very old fake ivy. There is also a newer wooden fence behind the units to screen them from the rest of the roof. This is the plan. So the bulkhead is here, the proposed and existing bulkhead. The units are here. They're 3.5 feet back. they had been, our approval documents did not give a dimension, but it looks as if that dimension was further back than where the units are now. This is the existing and proposed section. In this section, here are the units. This is the bulkhead. It's in like 3 parts. These are the units. If you'll notice, there's quite a good sized chimney on the roof, and that's the reason the units were placed where they were. And they were placed in the exact same spot that the old units were. They were really replaced in kind. And so this has been going on for a long time, but now we'd like to legalize the situation. This is what you can see from 11th Street. So we're looking at the rear of the building. This is what you can actually see, you know, when you stand there. And this is a super close up. So this is the bulkhead. This is the fence and the ivy. These are the HVAC units. And this is that protective scaffolding that that is temporary. That is our full presentation. I have some extra photos of the roof and the units and all that if you want to see them, but this is basically it. Oh, I do want to say that the owner has gotten all his permits and done all his work and done a nice job. They have a DOB permit for this elevator bulkhead, but there was some confusion when they first went to Landmarks about the whole project. They hadn't had all of the they hadn't chosen an elevator. They chose one that was the bulkhead was as short as it could be. And they left it out of their public hearing presentation, really just so to keep things moving along. So this wasn't some deliberate attempt to file some illegal elevator bulkhead, and they wound up getting a DOB permit. But in fact, there is no LPC permit for this, and they would like to make this all better.
To clarify a little bit, Mary, the original proposal did not include an elevator. The elevator decision was made after the LPC hearing in, I guess, 2017. And then we wanted to choose an elevator that didn't necessarily penetrate the roof. But that decision was also changed, and we didn't know the exact height of the bulkhead. So we were anticipating the elevator really not interfering at all with the existing bulkhead. But the decision was made late to extend it, and we still didn't know how high it was going to be until we started the construction.
Right, there had been a bulkhead there.
Yeah, there was a bulkhead, but it didn't contain an elevator. The elevator was a decision that was made after the LPC approved.
Okay, now I'm thoroughly confused. So
I don't want you to be confused.
This bulkhead that currently is there that needs to be legalized was built when?
I believe it was built in 1890 when the building was
it isn't even complete yet, so like 1-2 years ago, 1 year.
So this existing currently illegal bulkhead was built just like 2 years ago.
Recent.
In recent times. Okay. And you are simply proposing to legalize it, not change it in any way.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
And we point out that this is the only visibility.
Understanding that.
Okay.
Better.
Okay, thank you. Anita.
Yes, could you turn to page 8? Please. Okay, just walk me through. I see the up above is some kind of structure. What is that?
Bulkhead.
Okay, bulkhead. That is 10 feet above the roof or what? I mean, a bulkhead, it's
8, looks like 8 something, 8.4.
but that's the stair bulkhead?
Yeah,
That's a stair bulkhead, correct?
right. Yeah.
And then the and then the proposed shows, I guess it's the stair with the skylight. Go back to 8 if you would. I'm just trying to understand it. You see, so the rear is on the left-hand side, correct? The rear of the building is on the left.
Yes, yes.
And then we have, what is that first structure? Is that the elevator? The first room, if you
No.
will.
No, that's storage. That is a storage building.
And then comes the stair,
Yes,
and then comes the elevator.
yes, and towards the rear, yes.
Okay, and
Towards the front.
so on the next slide, if you will, the next picture, 9. Oh, no, where's the photograph that you showed us looking through the alleyway or the walkway? There you go. Now, what am I looking at? Because right now that scaffolding is really doing you a huge favor.
Yes.
And behind that is a very big white box.
Right, that you can see from about 6 feet or less from 11th Street toward the rear of the building, and also hidden in part by a fire escape.
And is that what I'm looking at is what is in the existing plan or in the actual proposed, because we're legalized?
The proposed plan is the existing, that's kind of a kind of a landmarks thing.
No, I
where-
understand. I just want to make sure. So we are seeing a storage area. The wall of the storage room? Is that correct?
No,
March.
that is the, that, what we're seeing here is the, would be the north face of the elevator room. It's,
Where's the stair bulkhead? I say now you can.
Yes, we're really confused, yeah.
the stair bulkhead is beyond this northernmost northern part of the elevator bulkhead.
Would
So-
you show me on the plan? Would you?
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Mary. So the elevator is on the north side is on the left of this.
I
plan.
don't know what's north, so just show me left. You just told me that was storage. I just asked you.
Well, forgive me, but the storage is on the right side, which is the southern part of the bulkhead.
Oh, wow. No wonder I'm confused. You changed it.
I'm sorry.
The
All right.
elevator bulkhead is the tallest structure, obviously, because that's how it always is.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, just to clarify, the bit that we're seeing, not seeing through that viewpoint on 11th, from that viewpoint on 11th Street, if there were no funky fake landscape, fake ivy, and there were no scaffolding, what would we actually be seeing? Would we be seeing the stair bulkhead only? Would we be seeing the stair bulkhead and the elevator bulkhead only? Would we be seeing the elevator bulkhead and part of the stair bulkhead? What exactly would we be seeing?
Well, that ivy is covering up existing mechanical units that are compressors that deliver, coolant to units inside the building.
Right, but behind that,
And then beyond those mechanical units is the north wall of the elevator bulkhead that contains, hoists for moving the elevator up and down.
So we're doing what landmarks usually asks people to do, which is to move the elevator bulkhead as far back as possible so that it won't be visible over the front facade. And indeed, nothing is visible over the front facade. What we do get is one slice of visibility over the rear facade.
wait, so you're speaking as though you're proposing to move it, not that it is already there.
They're not moving.
You're
It's
not
already
moving.
there.
Right,
It's
okay.
already there. But
It's
the
just
the
said,
construct is that we're looking to legalize it, but you have to call it proposed because it's not approved.
Right, got it.
got it.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. Anita, do you have any more questions?
No.
Valerie? Eugene, have you got any questions?
Yes, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry, I'm still confused about this elevator, so if I could ask.
You're in good company. We're all confused.
All right,
sorry.
I feel like the slow kid in class today, but so slide 7, if you could go to slide 7. So that is the proposed of what we were just looking at, right? We were just looking at the photograph of this. But on the proposed, on the photo, it didn't look like the bulkhead went up 14 feet. I guess
Yeah,
that's
that's the thing about an elevation. They look, it looks like it's right there in front of you, but when you're looking at quite a distance from the rear
11th Street.
facade. And then it gets shorter looking.
Yeah.
First, okay, with perspective, yes. So, okay, so
You're looking up
make
at
sure that the proposed, what we're calling proposed, was actually what's there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
You have to
thank
call it proposed because it isn't approved.
All right, thank you. I think that's what's tripping all of us up. Well, at
Yeah,
least me.
sorry, we just can't call it existing because that's.
You
it
should
hasn't been
also
approved.
label them on the plan. You should label the elevator bulkhead on the plan, so it's not a mystery room.
Yeah, thank you, and we'll do that, and we appreciate that. It is confusing.
So given that we've straightened out that the proposed is the existing that we've entered time warp, it is white, yes?
Yes.
So once that scaffolding is no longer there, what we will see from that slim viewpoint will be very white against the darker facade of the larger building on the other side of it, yes?
You will. I mean, the building has white, it has quite a bit of white trim, but yes, you will.
It's a stucco.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Would anybody from the public like to speak?
Is there anybody from the public? Yeah,
Yes.
there is. It's a very quiet crowd tonight.
Okay.
We want to say we're not committed to the white if this is going to be the big stumbling point.
Okay, thank you for saying that, Mary, because I am concerned that that little, what is currently a little sliver of white, in another day, absent that scaffolding, will look very important. Okay.
Well, if you're standing directly in front of that alleyway on 11th Street.
Well,
looking at the rear facade.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're that's not the issue.
Yeah.
The color.
We're
if it is for you,
we
if it is
look
for
at
you,
those things.
we're okay with changing it.
Be better if it like a gray or a zinc.
All right, I think that's it. If nobody has any other questions, then we thank you for your presentation and we'll move on.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to move on to 138 Prince Street. The application is to install pin-mounted signage, vinyl graphics, and digital displays.
Okay, I am promoting Carla Samama, if I'm not mispronouncing that last name, for 138 Prince Street.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our application. My name is Carla Samama, and I'm presenting on behalf of Studio Superette. With me today is my colleague, Eric Barassa, who's also the architect of record.
All right, I'm promoting Eric as well.
Go ahead and share my screen.
Well, I'm glad somebody's coming into this storefront.
Yeah.
Do you see the screen?
Yep, thanks.
Fantastic. So, as previously mentioned, our application is focused on mostly signage and exterior scope, pin-mounted signage, vinyl graphics, and digital displays. So to get you situated, our site is at 138 Prince Street, so on the corner of Prince Street and West Broadway, right here in Soho. For your reference, we added some tax photos. The one at the center over here is in the corner of Prince Street and West Broadway. To your right is a photograph of Prince Street, where most of the scope that has changed lies in this storefront over here and this entryway that now is a window. And to your left is an enlarged screenshot of the signage that used to be there in between the window arch and the decorative brickwork above, same on Prince Street. So looking a little bit more current, this is from 2014 with the previous tenant, who was French Connection. They had armature signs across the facade and some vinyl signage throughout all the windows, and some film at the Prince Street storefront, which is divided into two and has a transom above with two glass fins, which you can faintly see in the picture due to the film. These are some very recent photos that we have taken, and here you can see the Prince Street storefront with this division in the storefront over here. And some photos to situate you from the corner over here. This is West Broadway. To the left is Prince Street. So what we're proposing is building a jewelry store at this site, where the upper portion over here is the main sales floor. Given that the site has so many windows, we've tried to tuck away in most of our back of house facilities, and behind this devising thick brick wall is what we're proposing to be the bespoke area, which essentially consists of individual appointment rooms that you're seeing over here that require some level of privacy, where people can customize their own wedding rings. And over here towards the Prince Street storefront is a waiting area for that. So looking at this in elevation, you can see both of them side by side, where we call out all the signage, this being Prince Street and this being West Broadway. To zoom into that a little further, first with Prince Street. So what we're proposing is a pin-mounted sign centered in between these three windows, in between the edge of the window and the decorative brickwork above. We're also proposing to reuse the existing arm blades, and there's two of them on Prince Street, and add a sign for Ring Concierge there. As well, over here on the left side, you can see that the storefront, we are not demolishing anything, but to look a little bit closer to the right in the enlarged version of this, we are proposing to put a gradient privacy film. The reason behind that is because the nature of creating these bespoke wedding rings and the nature of a proposal is usually a surprise, and we wouldn't want to invade on the privacy of the people that might be in the waiting room. So essentially, we're proposing that the film be opaque at the bottom and progressively becomes very translucent, so that you can still see into the space, especially from afar, even if you can't identify the person that's sitting right next to the glass. At the top over here, we are proposing to put an opaque film that would conceal the transom, as the previous tenant's French Connection did. And last but not least, we are also proposing one digital display on this facade. It is 18 inches beyond the window, but it still counts as signage, so we did want to mention that. Looking at West Broadway, we're proposing a similar scope, where we have one pin-mounted sign on the West Broadway facade centered in between these two windows. As well, it's between the decorative brickwork and the edge of the arched window. We're also proposing two digital displays on this facade, given that it's much longer and has more windows, one by the entry over here and another one by the second entry. Last but not least, we're also proposing vinyl signage for the store hours at the existing doors. Looking at this building a little bit in section, you can see that the display cases and the digital displays that we're proposing are 18 inches from the window. And looking a little bit closer into this area over here, we can look at the signage a little bit further. On the left side is our proposed pin-mounted signage. We're essentially proposing a 12-inch tall sign that would be black metal, and all of that would be mounted to a metal bar. That would, in color, match the existing brickwork. The reason we're doing this is we're trying to limit the penetrations into the brick facade. So by putting it on a metal rail, we can have a lot less penetrations. And to look at that a little bit in section over here, you could see a 12-inch tall sign that is in between the edge of the window and the commencement of the decorative brickwork that is existing to remain. Looking at the bracket signs, you know, the armature is already existing as is, but what we're proposing is a simple sign that says Ring Concierge on it. It doesn't have anything too particular about it. The lettering would stand 5/8 inch proud of the metal sign. So moving into renderings, this is at the corner of Prince Street and West Broadway. You can see the 2 pin mounted signs, one on each facade. And you can see the existing arm blades where we are proposing to add signage. And in the back over here, you can see the Prince Street storefront film that we're proposing. Looking at these individually by facade, first Prince Street, you can see the pin mounted signage that we propose, the 2 blade signs that are existing, the digital display in the window below the pin mounted sign, and the storefront with the film that is a gradient film at the bottom and opaque at the top, with a vinyl sign that says bespoke on it and a slight small vinyl sign over here to point to ADA access. Looking at the same render, but for West Broadway, we have this pin mounted sign in between, centered in between these 2 windows. This facade has 3 existing arms, so we used all 3 of those. Over here, you have 1 digital display nearby the entry and a 2nd digital display. And last but not least, you have the vinyl on top of the doors to showcase the store hours. To look at that just a little bit closer in terms of signage, for the pin mounted sign, part of the reason we were suggested to present at the community board hearing is because this rendering is showcasing that it is indeed in between the window and the decorative brickwork, but what the rendering isn't necessarily showing, but that the photo on the right is showing, is that there's some brickwork pattern that follows the arch, which is flush with the facade overall. It's not super noticeable from afar, but if you do zoom up close, you can't see that the brickwork follows the arches. Over here is a little bit of a close-up into the digital displays. As you can see, there's 1 by each entry. And you can also see a little bit closer the vinyl signage that we would propose at each door for store hours. And last but not least, a close-up render of what we are proposing for the storefront on Prince Street, where we have you know, the gradient film where you can see a little bit into the space and understand that spatially this continues in terms of its interior design and architecture, and the small signage for the vinyl at the main storefront and for the ADA access. It. So if you have any questions, we're all ears.
Okay, thank you, Carla. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Am I correct in understanding that you are not proposing any additional bracket signs, simply putting signs where there are currently bracket signs?
Yes, that's exactly correct. Only the ones that are existing are the ones where we're proposing to add signage.
And there's no illumination that's anticipated here?
Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Both pin mounted signage, we're proposing both pin mounted signage are halo lit, but that would be the only scope that would have.
Yeah, that's was in the application. Okay, but the blade sign, there's no illumination for the blade signs then?
No.
Okay. And I'm trying to understand on the Prince Street facade, what the white opaque transom is accomplishing, because you've got this situation with this kind of floating gradient privacy thing happening on the bottom, fading into clear storefront glass, and then becoming this white opaque thing. And all put together, it seems very strange. And so I'm wondering why that upper transom is opaque.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fair question. So I would just like to begin by saying we're not married to this. So if this is something that's a huge objection, we're definitely inclined to remove it. Our reasoning behind it is that, you know, this storefront has 2 glass wings that are essentially a butt joint onto the glass. So they're not very attractive. Let's see if we can find an existing photo where you can see them. So essentially, we think this is why the previous tenant put a film over here, because there are 2 fins where the metal connects. that aren't particularly attractive. And we think that putting a gradient film will probably draw your eyes towards the transom. But you know, we're open to changing that.
Can you zoom in on what you're considering to be the unattractive metal?
They're laminated glass structural fins, but they're 20+ years old and it's not low iron glass. It's very much not a premium storefront. If you were to look at, touch it in person, it's not aged so well. And so we think kind of debranding from it is actually a better approach than to call attention to it and celebrate it.
And if it were clear,
Looks really heavy.
yeah, it does. I think in a way you're calling more attention to it by with this proposal. If it were clear, how would it be attracting less attention than by making it white?
No, the aesthetic of the glass structural mullions is not beautifully detailed in person. We don't have finite photos of it, but you could walk by it and understand what we're.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with the streetscape there. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that answer. And did you consider, in terms of the pin mounted signage, maybe decreasing the height a little bit? Because even before you transparently showed us the lovely brick archwork, I had concerns over the fact that it just looks so squished in there between the top of those lovely windows and the bottom of that lovely decorative brick.
Yeah, we could consider making it smaller. By how much would you deem that appropriate?
We'll talk about that in our business session, I think, but I just was curious if you were open to that, because it is.
The landmarks guidelines, as of right, designate 18 inches, as I'm sure you're familiar, as the typical height, which we believe is done because at the standard sign band, it's actually usable and visible.
Right, yeah, but this isn't the standard sign band, yeah.
Right, and our feeling is by going under 12 inches, the sign starts to not totally serve a purpose. And so if we are going to put something there and penetrate, important architecture, we want to do so in such a way that it's actually meaningful for the tenant. At the end, it is trying to be wayfinding in not a way of a billboard, but in a way of, consumers actually knowing what the space is. And in our point of view, anything below 12 inches stops really serving a purpose.
Okay, thank you. Anita, have you got anything?
Oh, yeah, well, you said especially this signage above the arch or in the arch is very disturbing to me. I'm just wondering if there was a way maybe of raising it up. There's a band above it. I understand you want a certain size, but sometimes smaller is easier to read. This one, I don't think it does you any good service. It feels crowded. It feels too big. It feels squished. It's not really very elegant. So I really strongly object to installing it just haphazardly on top of these beautiful, we don't have a lot of beautiful brickwork in these neighborhoods, and this building happens to have it. So I would hope that you could explore some other options. And I would say raise it up maybe and spread it out and make it smaller, but it could still be quite strong and easy to read. Another comment I have is, with all the renovation you're doing, is this not a good time to maybe provide ADA accessibility to the space? It seems like you do have some opportunities on West Broadway. You don't have too many steps.
There's an ADA entrance on Prince. It's that great.
Oh, there is? Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And then just to remind, the original tax photo, we did have signage on the spandrel, so that's really where the precedent came from for locating it on this, above that window. We would
Where's the
certainly,
spandrel? What are you talking about? Which spandrel?
right there, so if you could see, we're almost quite literally putting it where
Oh,
the.
I see.
And,
Well, I
and
don't
that
know.
was on
Spandrel.
recommendation of the landmark staff to locate it here, rather than raise it up. We would also agree that it could look nice as well above the vertical, above that horizontal, standing proud brick line.
It just doesn't look right, just as intuitively, aesthetically. It looks really slammed in there, and I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I mean, your renderings are deceptive. That's another thing is, I know it's hard to draw, but the beauty of those arches is pretty significant and they don't show up in the renderings, so we're not comparing them to what's really there.
Well, in its full honesty, looking at it from a few feet back, it's not something that's that prominent, right? Like this photo is taken by zooming in a lot, right? But if you look at it from the corner, it's actually almost imperceivable.
It's still a beautifully constructed arch where you're putting anchors into an arch. Arches should be just left alone. They're just.
Again, there's a precedent for it in the building. If we can go back to it, we're putting it exactly how the precedent was. So we're only trying to recall history. We're not trying to create new architecture here.
I think that was only 12 inches high in that photograph?
I do. Yeah, I do.
I think it's bigger than 12 inches, if I may, because this one over here on Prince Street shows you that in between the brickwork that stands proud and the window, it's sitting about 12 inches. This one over here is actually impeding on the brickwork that's above. So the one on the second picture below has to be bigger than 12 inches.
No, but in the first picture there, that looks smaller than 12 inches.
I believe it's 12 inches. It's lined up to the edge of the brickwork. So if you think it's nicer for it to line up to the brickwork instead of being centered, we're also open to that.
Well, it doesn't look great in the picture either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we always want to improve rather than just because anyway, I've made my point, so I'll drop it. I know Eugene wants to say something.
Please. Go ahead, Eugene, please.
Okay, thanks. My questions were around the digital signage. So how many signs are there? It seems like, I think like maybe kind of 3, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. 1 on Prince Street and 2 on West Broadway.
And is the plan for those signs to be on 24/7?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And the other windows, so if you go to I think maybe 15 or 14, either 14 or 15, the smaller items in the other windows, are those product boxes? What is going to be in there? And
so that's that's exactly correct. Those are product boxes, so it would likely display jewelry of in some capacity.
And is that going to be illuminated as well?
No.
No. Okay.
It's the product will be illuminated.
Sorry, what?
Be a pin light on the product.
Oh, right.
In the vitrine.
In the vitrine, yeah.
In the box.
Just to display the face of the product, so it's not in shadow, but it's not a halo lit.
Okay. All right. And could you point out the ADA entrance for me?
Sure. We'll scroll back to a plan real quick. So this is West Broadway and this is Prince Street. At the Prince Street storefront, it's divided into 2, and this entry over here is ADA accessible.
It's at grade.
At grade, yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
But again, no storefront modifications are proposed in this application.
Understood. Thank you. Understanding that the digital proposed signage is 18 inches behind the window, still, I would like to know what that will look like. What are you envisioning as the content on that signage?
Yeah, so here's like a rendering that shows what type of stuff they would have. It would likely be content that's photographs of jewelry worn on fingers or displayed in an actual display case of some sort.
And that would be on 24/7.
Yes.
If I
Okay.
could also ask one more question.
So
Go ahead.
I'll finish this one and then you, Eugene.
Thank you.
Is that going to be a moving signage? Is there going to be something kinetic about it? Is it going to be one fixed image? Is one image going to fade into another? How do you? Will it be like a little?
Yes, let's give a little backstory. The brand was started as an internet business, and so was started on social media. So it's very much a sort of young and vibrant brand that is very dynamic, and in that sense, it would be probably connected to their digital presence. So it will be kind of ever changing and dynamic. It's not going to be a static, bright billboard. It's meant to be just connecting you to their digital presence.
Okay, thank you. And Eugene, were you done?
Actually, yeah, my question was actually kind of on that same frame. So about, this, why digital and not just a static sign? So are you saying there's going to be video playing on this?
Yes. It's a monitor. Yes.
Video.
Yes, similar to what you might see on Prince Street with digital displays in the windows that has an animation.
Do you have examples of other
signage.
digital? Do you have examples of other digital displays that are in the neighborhood?
We don't in this presentation.
Are you aware of any?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am, yes. I mean, the biggest example would be Nike has signage on Spring and Broadway.
There's another jewelry store, or there's another store that has many displays also in the window.
It's the time, sign of the time.
Okay, thank you. Anita, you had something else?
Yeah, I just wondered, on the rails that are holding the black letters, which are pin mounted, right? Did you say they're illuminated or not?
Yes, they're halo lit.
They are illuminated. And how many anchors are you proposing for this sign into the masonry?
I bet there'd be 6.
6 altogether?
Yes.
And assuming you go ahead with this, can you try to put them in the mortar joints? So it can.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We could epoxy them into the mortar. This isn't a large sign.
No, but people have done crazier things, trust me. So it would be nice not to damage the brick. It's very difficult to repair this kind of arch. So, there's life after, and it would be nice to maintain the masonry without damaging it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, does anybody else on the committee have anything to say? Valerie, you've been quiet.
It seems a little chaotic with all of the signage and the large letters. So I agree, the large on the brick and the hiding of the brick. Like those signs make sense to me. They're quiet, they're elegant. But the one over the 3 windows and seems a bit off, and it just seems really like your logo on the website is, a little quieter, elegant. It doesn't scream that screams to me. So I don't think it's aesthetically pleasing. That's it.
Thanks, Valerie.
And it'll be easier to read, actually, if it were smaller. That's my opinion too.
All right, we'll move to the public now. I see that Laura Tenenbaum has her hand raised.
Oh, give me 1 second to get to her.
Yep.
Laura, I will promote you actually.
Okay,
There you are,
I'm
Laura.
noted. I should have put my hair up. I didn't know I was going to be on the screen. Sorry, guys. But anyway, I was a little disappointed in this presentation. It's a beautiful building. It's one that's really iconic on the corner. It's a lot of very well-known artists have lived in that building. Alex Katz for one, Al Held for another. I've been passing it for 50 years plus. And the rendering really does it a disservice. The brickwork here looks like it belongs to the 1950s. Doesn't show any of the nuance in the building. And as was noted, doesn't show the beautiful brickwork around the windows. And I think that's the main thing. In some ways that disturbs me about this presentation and proposal is that brickwork is obscured. The other thing is that very strange doorway on Prince Street. Made me think of a doctor's office, you know. I understand the privacy, but there's no reason to have the private area right against abutting the window. I understand that making a decision on where to put things in a loft building in Soho can be difficult, but I really think it really does a disservice to the neighborhood to do that. The blade signs, well, I like blade signs. I'm the one who recommended the city start allowing them instead of just flag signs. So I'm sort of married to that one. But I think that the combination of the pinned sign and the blade signs is a little bit of too much. That's all my, you know, I'm not going to go into the architectural discussion because that's not really me, but I am disappointed. I find it a honky tonk, but then again, I'm not going to shop for rings on the internet, so that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
I mean, I am their core customer.
But
Millennials. Yes, it says they
Right.
all right, does anybody else have anything to say?
No.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, thank you very much, Carla. And we can move on. Thanks. Our next and last applicant is 375 West Broadway. The application is to add an elevator roof stop to the West Broadway passenger elevator to access the roof terrace, to convert the Worcester Street freight elevator to a passenger elevator and enlarge both elevator bulkheads.
Great. I've promoted Adrian Figueroa, who will be rejoining as a panelist. Adrian, when you are rejoined, you can share your screen.
Oh dear.
Oh, we are having some audio issues, Adrian.
Adrian, hang on a sec. We're hearing you in sort of chipmunk voice. I wonder if perhaps you have an open microphone or on a secondary device, or if there's some other reason that this is happening.
Perhaps you could use your phone to dial into the Zoom. That's an option under the Zoom. You can if you click on the icon on the lower left, you should be able to say it says switch to phone audio, and then it should tell you what numbers you can dial in to link your phone. to your session.
It's having one of those sort of, there you go.
Donald Duck voice.
About to get a squirrel in here to trip.
It's very difficult to hear you, Adrian. Well, it's impossible to hear you.
But we can hear, it's just, it's garbled,
Plus, but it's yeah, unintelligible, I suppose.
unintelligible.
Does he have a cell phone? Can we connect?
Yeah, I think Eugene's trying to see if he could dial in.
Yeah, so Adrian, if you go on the lower left where the microphone icon is, click on that menu.
What causes that? So weird, huh?
And then go to switch to phone audio. And then it should give you a number of dial-in numbers. You can, very last one is the New York one, 1-646-518-9805. And then you can dial in your meeting ID and your participant ID.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's funny. Mhm.
Great. So if you do that, it should link. Yes, I can see you're on your phone now. So you need to just unmute, Adrian.
How
There you
about
go.
now?
That's so much
Is it
better.
working now?
Yes.
We're
Oh,
good.
I graduated from chipmunk to bear.
Yay.
So much better. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Adrian Figueroa, and I am the architect for 375 West Broadway, where we are doing an elevator modification. We're extending it to the rooftop on one side, on West Broadway side. And we have another elevator that we are converting from a freight elevator to a passenger elevator with very modest modification to the rooftop. So this is our site located on West Broadway between Broome and Spring. I took a lot of photos. So all these, I'm going to get enlarged here. So here is our site, and these numbers mean that these are our photo shots, and the ones with an asterisk means that there is, when we did a mock-up for landmarks, we compared the before mock-up and after mock-up, so you can see them, and it's illustrated on the following pages. Here is photo one from Broome Street, looking up to our site. And we took, when the mock-up was done, we took a shot of the same area, and the elevator is on this side. This is on Broome and Worcester Street. This is the before and after. There's no, you can't see the mock-up. Actually, you know what? Let me skip this. Okay, so here is our mock-up of the elevator for the West Broadway side, and this is the mock-up where we're extending the elevator machine room on the Worcester side, just to give you context. So I'll go back to our presentation. So from Worcester Street, you can't really see the 2 feet extension on the Worcester side elevator enlargement. And then this shot here is, I'm going to go back to our page here. This shot is this one here, number 4. looking in between the buildings, just so you can see where things are, that's all. So that's that shot. And the next page, this is Worcester Street side where the before and the extension that we're doing is about 2 feet above the existing elevator machine room, which is not very visible. Now, on the other side where West Broadway is, it's a very different story. This elevator machine room is being brought up with an elevator stop on the roof for the rooftop terrace for people to occupy. So this elevator is to meet ADA accessibility, and the machine room is put on top of the elevator. This is 23 feet above the floor of the, let's call it the roof terrace floor. And this is another shot from the terrace, the patio looking towards the elevator machine room. Now, this is on West Broadway side, across the street, that you don't really see the image, but as you're moving back on, this is West Broadway and the intersection of Broome and Watts where it separates. And you can see the elevator extension, the passenger. Here is another one. This one is on Thompson and Watt Street. I'm sorry, is this Watts? Yeah, this is Watt Street. Thompson and Watt at the corner. This is the before, and this is the after. And you can see that you do see it. As we moving further, this is across the street on the west side of Thompson. Again, you can see the elevator enlargement, and this is the before and after. This is kind of off target. We'll fix that later. And then the final page is from now from Watt Street and 6th Avenue. You can also see the elevator extension here. And this is from Spring Street and Broadway. It's an after shot. Our building is this one here. And because of the angle, you don't see the extension. And we go to this one. And so around the neighborhood, we went around the neighborhood to find other elevator extensions, other elevator, what people have done throughout the neighborhood. And we found a few of them. Here is 3 of them. And these are their shots. And as we're going, these are just the actual drawings. This is the elevator lobby, the overrun that's required for this elevator, and the machine room. And you can see that the dimension is 25 feet, 10 inches total height from let's call it the terrace. And here are those floor plans, the elevator, new elevator lobby, and the elevator machine room. This is the gray here represents the existing elevator machine room, and this hatch line represents the new enlargement of the elevator above. This terrace was approved in landmarks about 5 years ago, and has been landmark approved. This is the on Worcester Street side, the elevator, the freight elevator extension, where we're enlarging it approximately 2 feet. And so the total height is 9.8. This is the what you actually saw. We had contractors build it and make sure it's the right height, and they put a net around it in color so we could see it from the streets. And that's the both sides that we did. This one is the elevator machine, the passenger elevator enlargement. The other one was the freight, and this one is the freight elevator. Okay, I will go back to the front. Any questions?
Well, I'm going to ask the obvious question. Is there any way to reduce the height of that 20? Because, you know, it's indisputably extremely visible from those vantage points on Watt Street. And have you explored any other ways of reducing the height there?
We asked our elevator consultant to give us a new section so that we can move the elevator machine room to the side. He was supposed to have his analysis done today. He didn't. I have no confirmation, but he said that it will increase our costs between 30 and 40% to move that over, which will be about $500,000 more to do that. And once I get that information, I have to give it to my structural engineer to figure out how we're going to support the structure. So I will have that information, hopefully before the landmark hearing. If not, then that hearing may be postponed. But I did ask my elevator consultant to see if we can move the elevator machine room to the side. He says that we will have to have a whole new elevator and possibly all new equipment. So he's doing that analysis, and I will have that. And sorry he couldn't do it in time. We did this presentation about 2 weeks ago with landmarks. And after that, we got landmark comments, and then we engaged our elevator consultant to give us a new plan. So I'm sorry that he did not give us the new analysis for this meeting.
Okay, so that's pending, and I assume that landmark's concern was the same one, is just that it's so extremely visible, yes?
Yes, same thing. They had the same thing. It's visible. There are other in the area. We show about 3, but there are about 8 other areas. There's one that's actually quite interesting that was approved. Let me get to that drawing. They didn't show it. Okay. So you could. This one is weird. There are well, here's one right across the street from us. This is you know the area. Cipriani's here. Our building's across the street, and there's this elevator enlargement. But I think I have more pictures that I would like to share. First, let's see if I can find that.
Currently, is there no ADA access to the roof?
There is not. The previous architect who got approval for the rooftop, he installed it, and and DOB put him in an audit because there is no accessibility to the roof.
Yeah, not a good
So
thing.
he's an audit. Not a good thing, and they hired me to kind of fix it. So we've been trying to fix it.
I just want to ask some.
Okay, thank you.
questions.
Anita's got some questions.
I just want to make sure I understand what I'm looking at. Do you have a front facade photograph of the building?
Yes, I could show you a picture of the building. I did not show the. So this is the building right here.
I see. And
it's right here.
and the elevator that's being, there's 2 elevators, freight and passenger.
Yeah.
And the
Correct.
passenger is the one that's being raised up 25, almost 26 feet from the roof, correct?
Correct.
And it's, how close is it to the front? We don't have your mock-up photographs in our copy, by the way. So,
We sent those. Okay, I will resend
it's all right. I'm just saying that I would have liked it because I can see it easier on my little iPad than on. So the view from West Broadway, do you have a photograph? That, and the passenger elevator is the one on West Broadway, obviously, right?
Yes. Yes.
Did you consider that maybe the visibility is less at the freight elevator?
The rooftop terrace doesn't extend to the other side. It's only limited to 1/3 of the roof around at West Broadway side only.
It's what's happening on the roof? I didn't hear that.
Sorry. So the rooftop terrace, the reason why we're building
it's a
this,
terrace? Okay.
it's
all right.
on the West Broadway side only.
Well, but anyway, maybe you could make a passageway. I don't know. I'm just asking because that's like an obvious thing to at least consider, even if you had to have a walkway to get to the terrace or something. So.
That won't be possible. Only let me see if I go to those pictures and show you, which is a good point. I believe it's the other way. All right. Here I don't show it, but there's to get to here, I had to go under 4 or 5 beams. I mean, almost squatting to get there. So that part is not possible. The other option that was considered was to have a lift, but the tenant who's below this roof did not allow us extra space. So the only option we had was to extend the elevator to the rooftop.
I understand. Could you show me the front elevation with the enlarged red mock-up?
Yes. Oh wait, this is a good one. So this is the existing elevator machine room now. We're currently going up and out.
And where's the front facade? Where's the front facade?
The front facade is here.
Could you show me a photograph with the mock-up?
This is, here is, you want a photograph? Sure.
And what about the front facade? I just want to see what it looks like from West Broadway. You don't have that. West Broadway photograph.
Oh, yes. Yes, I have that one. It would be, here is West Broadway coming in and out of the page.
Close that up. I can't see that. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh.
So here's West Broadway. It's across the street. And this is Broome. Right here, Broome and Watts where they split. And that's the elevator machine room.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else, Eugene, have you got any question, or Valerie, have you got any questions?
Nope.
Answered. All right, let's move to the public then. I see that Laura Tenenbaum has her hand raised.
Okay, Laura can ask her question. Hello again.
Hi, hi again. It's awfully large. And I was wondering, one of the prime example of a precedent that was shown is right across the street on West Broadway. I was wondering if that was done before or after the Soho cast iron historic district was expanded and extended to that side of the street? Or was it grandfathered because it was there already when the
I don't know, but that's a very good question.
Oh, it is.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
That was it.
Okay, great, thanks. Anyone else from public or community board? All right, well then we'll close out this part of the meeting. Thank you, Adrian, and I'm glad we got rid of your chipmunk voice.
Thank you very much.
Working that out. And thank you for your presentation. You're more than welcome to stay for our business session. So now we'll go into the business session. And let's start with the most extensive application, which is the first one, 276 West 11th Street.
Can I switch over to my computer audio and not lose you? Because I want to also hear. Is that possible? I don't want to turn this off and lose my
As long as you mute yourself.
We're not talking, he's not talking anymore. You have to tell him.
Yeah, you won't be talking anymore because we're done with your application.
Okay.
We're done
Yes,
with
and I
your
can move you back to the attendee.
Yes, move me back to the other side so I can feel this. So
Great. Thank you for joining.
thank you.
Okay, Chenault is back with us. Hi, Chenault. So let's start with 276 West 11th Street. Let's go kind of point by point here. Let's start with the front facade and let's start with the modification of the parlor windows. What does everybody think?
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure why we have this to review because it's actually going back to a more authentic, original facade. So all in all, I have no objection. It looks like they know what they're doing and I think it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. And does anybody have anything else to say about those parlor windows?
Well, it's certainly not a situation of that the house was taken at some historical time to a Victorian look that perhaps should be preserved rather than going back to it. It's very much a hodgepodge now, the way the top is developing. So
yeah, and it is a twin, and
which makes it nice to have something right next door you can.
I think that
duplicate.
Gentlemen seem to be agreeable to considering other ironwork. I didn't especially care for that ironwork.
We'll get to that. Yeah, I think we probably all feel the same way. Yeah. So as far as the modification of the parlor windows, everybody's okay with that. The restoration of the front facade, stripping of the paint and all of that, I'm not even sure why we're hearing some of these things, as Anita said, but I mean, there's certainly, that's all good. While we're still on the front.
I think it may have come because of undoing a recognizable change rather than a destruction kind of change.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. We don't mind.
We might mention that
that isn't defensive.
that there was a suggestion of changing the ironwork.
Oh, yeah, we're going to discuss that now. I think,
it just doesn't seem, I'm not sure that it's exactly right for the period. What do you think?
Well, there is a lot of this kind of loop-de-loop design in the neighborhood. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's the 1850s.
That was the question.
Because that tends to be more ornate. And this is like a Italianate, I would say, if we have to pick a style. And this doesn't look very Italianate. So, but it is common. I will say that if it's done properly, where it's usually, these are thin ironwork that are then glued together, so it has some substance. Sometimes they make them very thin and flimsy. So I don't like it on the windows either. That really looks off to me. The ironwork on the basement windows, because I don't know, I've never seen that
Why don't
before.
we suggest a more delicate period artwork suitable to the
I
period?
think so too, because we're basically not referring to any kind of original source material. We're referring to a 15-year-old, restoration. So I'm not sure that's a solid enough reference point. The applicant certainly seemed open to this. We know that even with sibling buildings, there are often differences in the ironwork, and I see no reason to not ask for different ironwork, but I'd like to know how everybody feels about
Well,
that.
they're certainly more delicate or more interesting, I would even say, because some of the 1850s ironwork is not even that delicate. It could be, it's kind of substantial. So
it's not that it's heavy. So that's not really the point that I mean, because it looks very it's weirdly loops and.
Yeah, well, I think we should just ask for some different ironwork, something from the period. And also, I think it'll be nice to maybe have something a little different than the adjacent building even, because then it looks like it's, a cult. No, I'm only kidding. But, it's like.
Okay, so we all are in agreement there.
And we have balconies too.
Right, now when we're talking about suggesting a change in the ironwork, we're talking about all of the ironwork. And let's talk about the basement ironwork, because I think Anita is perhaps questioning the idea of basement ironwork at all.
No, that's common. But it almost always looks the same. If you go through the neighborhoods, you'll see they always are just about the same, a spear and, and I've never seen that kind of ironwork on any basement window. And right above it is again the balcony, which.
So are you suggesting that you think that the basement ironwork looks a little too important?
Yeah, I just don't like it. I mean, it's not historic to me. It looks not historic. So I think all the ironwork could be studied more carefully. And also they draw these, the newel post is like a little tiny post and then you swirl it around, which is great, but it's very hard to make. So I want to make sure that they can do it with this particular design.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move to the rear facade and the modification of the rear facade openings. And actually, they're redoing the entire rear facade. It's more than the openings. They're actually rebuilding the entire facade, which wasn't immediately clear.
Which seemed like a good idea to me.
I thought so too. I mean, it's not in great shape. They're not changing it in any way.
It won't, you might as well rebuild it if you get the right brick, historic brick.
Yeah, so maybe we should, when in terms of our resolution, discuss the importance of, the quality of the brick.
Yeah, that's the key, that they have a good eye for that. And they have to, Landmarks has to approve it. Anyway.
Yeah.
It is a case that we want to appear like the original, unlike sometimes you deliberately do the wrong thing or a different thing.
Right.
But
it's not a front facade brick either. So
it wants to look like a restoration.
Yeah. Yeah, the general tone of this whole application suggests a respect for what the building originally was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just think, it's getting the right kind of brick. The front facade brick is, these really thin mortar joints and very highly refined brick. It's a face brick. The rear facade, I don't believe is originally a face brick. It's more of a common brick. But I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, because they wouldn't, New Yorkers don't spend an extra penny if they don't have to.
Yeah.
They were thrifty back then too.
Okay, so we're good on the modification of the rear facade openings. The extension of the cellar foundation, it doesn't sound like there's any underpinning that's required there. Does anybody have any other concerns about that fairly significant excavation?
It's certainly none of the structural ones that
Right.
talk about.
Yeah.
I would say if you have some standard language, it never hurts to put some in there, even though they said there was no underpinning, that the one building has already been
Right, so we should
done.
note that the applicant represented that there was no
Yeah.
underpinning necessary because on one side it had already been done and that the other side there.
Still very delicate.
Yeah.
Delicate work.
Okay. Now while still on the rear facade, there's the metal deck and staircase there. I didn't think there was anything problematic about that. Did anybody else?
I thought the staircase was a nice, though it's not any period. The fact that it's so delicate, it doesn't detract from the facade in the way that some heavier ones we see do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It almost has a fire escape quality in a good way.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so we're okay with that. And now we can move to the roof where there's that odd situation with this sort of multiple skylights, multiple dormers, who knows what happened when situation.
It makes sense if you look at the plan, at the floor plan, which I did.
Mm-hmm. Right, it was
a-
obviously driven, those dormers are obviously driven by that, but in any event.
Like a gnome designed it or something. It's really just too peculiar the way they jigsaw puzzled it in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those dormers were typically put into a sloped roof, an attic. And I think it's probably original. I don't think anybody went to the trouble of building this copper dormer. I mean, I just don't, I think it's an original, but I don't mind getting rid of it because it's odd anyway, I think they have to utilize it. So, but remember, we never saw the actual view of this mock-up from any distance. So while it may be true that it's not visible, they should show us something.
Well, I guess we have to rely on the commission to see. Yes, yeah. I mean, I think we'll have to put in a whereas saying, whereas the applicant was
Not
unable
worth coming back, but it does need to be sternly highlighted.
that we cannot attest to the fact that the mock-up is not visible because we didn't see any demonstration of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be fine. I mean,
If they
I
want to
think
send it back, they're welcome to.
yeah, the project is fine. I mean, I'm not crazy about the rooftop addition, but hey, if it's not visible, I don't think anybody wants to see it. It looks so odd to me, but that's all right. Just looks odd. It looks odd. It's all like invisible glass and then this white stripe and then another invisible glass. It just feels very odd. I don't know what else to say.
It's always tricky with those, with obviously an expression that doesn't imply that was ever original, but how much discordance, do you want to see?
Yeah, it's like, it has nothing holding it together. It's like ephemeral or something. It's so, but that's what they want.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So essentially, we are all in agreement, yes, to approve pretty much everything, to request a modification on the iron work to add a little something about not being able to confirm that the rooftop addition is indeed invisible from the
From everywhere.
public thoroughfare. And
otherwise, it's a good project. I mean, it's.
yeah, and put in a little language about the cellar foundation. Make a comment about the quality of the new brick in the rear, and but basically approve everything. Yes.
And then in the separate resolution, I'll send you the boilerplate, so
Oh, for the revocable
but
consent.
what we want to agree here is that the intrusion is beautiful enough that it's worthy of intrusion.
Okay, and that'll be a separate thing. You and I can talk about that afterwards, but I imagine you have a model for that language, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So we can move on to 39 Fifth Avenue, which was the steel penthouse.
I'm
Arbor.
in agreement, of course, with that, and I'm going to excuse myself because I'm recused, not having heard the others.
Yeah. Okay. Good night, Chenault.
Thank you.
Thanks for popping in on this one. Okay. So 39 Fifth Avenue, the steel arbor.
I have no problem with it, honestly. I think it's, maybe when the white thing is on, it might look like more solid, obviously.
Yeah.
But I kind of like people build, inhabiting the roof.
It's friendly.
Valuable real estate, so.
Yeah, at least they didn't build like a little house up there. I mean, it is just kind of like a minimal structure. I guess that's better than, I guess, the alternative, which would have been like
the greenhouse or something, yeah.
Right.
just plopping down like a suburban house on top of that building.
Right, in the 80s, it would have been like one of those kits, greenhouse.
Yeah, like a kit house, right.
Right.
So, with like a fake green grass or something, yeah.
AstroTurf, yeah.
Exactly. I forgot to ask if they were gonna if they meant to just always keep it open, or if but it seems like it's obvious, right? It's usually gonna be open.
Well, yeah, otherwise it'll get really dirty and nasty if they keep it.
Yeah, and it is retractable, and the application showed us the elevations in the two conditions, one open and one closed, so.
Yeah. It seemed fine. It seemed like very minimal.
And I think, the fact that it's this off-white color in itself will stop it from being there all the time.
Yeah, they'll close it because it'll be vulnerable, wind and whatever.
All right, so
we're okay with
that. And
Yeah.
thank you for asking that question about the matte finish, Eugene.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving to 3 East 10th Street. That was the proposal of the existing.
It's a legalizing an elevator bulkhead. What a confusing.
That was confusing.
It was really a simple thing, but it was very confusing.
That did get unnecessarily complicated, I think. But anyway.
Are they taking down that fake shrubbery?
I think nobody said they were taking it down, and it clearly serves as masking for the
I would
mechanical.
suggest it, actually, because otherwise you're gonna see a
the
whole lot
mechanicals,
of
yeah.
condensing units.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that big white color. I mean, I know it's visible from just a small place, but from that small place, it's hugely visible, and the white will, I think, make it even more.
And it's up against a brick
building.
So
Right.
maybe if we ask that it match the building that it's sort of in front of, it would blend.
How would you ask for that? Is it?
I
like
can't
the brick
really, they would be
face it, or
asking for it to brick then.
The brick face it?
Oh, it could be brick face, it could be metal. Metal's very common, like a dull zinc or something.
Okay.
Gray.
A gray, right?
Yeah, I think
All
it would
gray.
blend. The white looks kind of
It stands out.
adding a lot of zing to it.
It really does. I mean, we always see these like standing seam metal things and
I would say something that just blends with the building. It's right up against the whole side of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
And the
That-
applicant was open to that
yeah,
suggestion. Yeah.
yeah. I think that does everybody agree that we should say that?
Yes.
There's all four of us here, is that right? We're four? Okay, just counting.
Where is everyone, by the way?
I don't know, we're here, we don't know.
Was a little late.
Oh, we'll cut you some slack, you came, thank you.
Okie dokie, 138 Prince.
I
Oh.
hated it.
Okay, it was really, we have to talk about this one.
Oh, I
Oh,
hate
it sounds like it's gonna be just a visual eyesore.
Oh.
I'm very familiar with that block.
Mhm.
too.
Block. I mean, like when the stores close, it's a very quiet block.
Yeah.
And it's very calming to walk on it because it's a very wide sidewalk as well, which is very rare.
I mean, I honestly think that if it was, it's like quiet luxury. It's like quiet, like you'd actually draw people in. You already have the blades, 3 blade signs,
It's more elegant.
Yeah.
But it feels fun to me to use this word bespoke, which implies a kind of quiet elegance, and then to have this kind of screaming thing happening.
Yeah, right. Even the word bespoke could be even like a little
Yes.
smaller.
A little more discreet.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it seems to be saying it's like it's bespoke. It's somewhat hidden, and then it's like screaming at you with these digital screens and this big, unbalanced.
Uh,
Are they going to be running like Instagram reels like on this screen?
Oh, God only
like,
knows. I mean, it's
24/7? That seems so.
I feel like it,
Okay.
I don't know what we can do here because it's 18 inches behind.
Allowed, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Look,
Not say anything about it because I think it's like a blank check for like 24/7 visual.
this to not.
And they could pump up. I mean, they could get a very, very bright display. We
Well,
didn't.
that's gonna be like a cannabis shop with the bright.
Yeah,
The bright.
yeah.
I think more than anything.
I will say there's so much of it in the neighborhood and some of them are like the size of this room,
Yeah.
No, and we don't like any of them.
but also maybe.
And then this is just going to be used as an example for the next application.
Right.
Well, yeah, if they were really, it would have been a stronger argument for it to show here all the examples in the neighborhood of it. I mean, even besides the egregious ones, like it's more of like in the same kind of context, I think would have strengthened their argument there.
Can
Well,
we,
yeah, the Nike store they reference is also like an eyesore. It's very bright on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I think we should have, make comments that we want the videos shut down at night. People sleep
Yeah.
on
Yes.
these streets. There's residential. There's no reason why we'd have to do surgery on the sidewalk because there's so much illumination.
It's light pollution.
It is. So I think we should have
And
a
the video
limit.
is very distracting.
Oh, yeah, it is. And I don't know if anybody's walked on the High Line through, what is that, Hudson Square? Have you seen the videos? They're like the size of a building.
Yeah.
And
They're
there's-
planning a Hudson Square too.
Huh?
Now, they're planning the second there's like a second Hudson Square they're planning.
Well, the video images are so overwhelming. They're really the size of a 4-story building. So maybe we were
I
lucky.
testified at Landmarks when they had those proposed rule changes, some of which involved signage. And I asked point blank, why did anybody think that these kind of digital signs were actually a good idea in a historic district? I was
Here
like,
we are.
I want this.
Well, you can't control it when it's past. I mean, that's the rule. Once it's.
I know.
within but let's at least ask for hours of
Yes, we
operation.
say that the digital signage be limited to the store hours of operation.
4 hours of operation, yeah.
Yeah.
There's really no reason, otherwise
Although that probably won't fly, but at least by 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at the, you know what I mean? That would be a good idea, but I don't think we'll win that one.
No, but we should at least register our concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's that. Okay. The pin mounted signage, I think we all, each of us individually, got the same little visual zing when we looked at that and saw how kind of cramped in and disharmonious that
It could be
signage.
spread. It's already illuminated, and then it could illuminate, allow that arch to breathe.
Yeah.
And the renderings, you can even see that there's so little affection for it. It's not represented in any way.
They're competing with those arches.
I wanted that to make it bigger so that, because like to validate the covering of them, I was like, that, no, like I did not agree with that at all.
So do we want that to be a deny unless, how do we want to write that? Do we want that to be a deny unless it's minimized, unless it's
reduced in size? I think if it were smaller, I would probably put it up higher, but that's a different, I don't know why it has to be there at all. I mean, there's so many other places to put signage.
They have the blade signs already.
Free.
Or you
And they
can
have,
even put
and
it
they
in
have the
the
digital
window.
displays in the window.
It's architecturally, it's a disaster. And that's what we're here to review.
Yeah.
So I think we should deny them and have them find another place if they have to have more signage. And we could even say, you know, in a way, less is more. It's like some of those signs, painted signs on the buildings, the smaller ones, the more interesting ones are way more appealing and attractive than.
Well, interestingly, after Valerie said that she was familiar with their website, I had a quick look, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the
balance of it on there.
where they have their name, Ring Concierge, relative to the page, it's a very small title.
Well,
So
people who are looking for it will find it, and the rest of us, we don't want to go. You know what I mean? If you're looking for that store, you're gonna.
I mean, I wanted to target, I'm not familiar with their website as in I've been on it a lot, just to.
Oh, sure.
I will say I am their target market for this. Cause like they're targeting like millennials and I'm sure. But.
And that's fine. Listen, we like everybody. But the sign is wrong for the building.
So we want to deny the sign, and do we want to suggest that it be moved elsewhere?
Just get away from the arches, find another location. And it'll be classier. I don't know how we can say that, but I think we're actually doing them a favor.
With the elegant aesthetic of the building or
There you
something
go.
like that. Yeah, yeah.
I like the way you see that so quickly rolls.
Okay, so that's a deny. The digital displays, we don't feel like we can outright deny because of their placement, but we'll try to put some breaks on how many hours.
Yeah, it shouldn't run all night
long before.
Nobody's shopping at 3 a.m. for jewelry. They go home.
The vinyl graphics,
that's fine.
I think they were fine. I mean, one was to indicate where the ADA axis was, bespoke. There were others, but I mean, they didn't seem, I thought they seemed okay. What did you
That's
guys?
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
seem
mean,
fine.
I'd rather have that than anything on the masonry.
Yeah, I don't know why they can't just put their name in the window.
That there, I mean, that, yeah.
Right.
I mean, that seems to be the logical.
Small letters.
Small.
Even because it looks like the name of the store is bespoke, to be honest with you.
It does.
Yeah, I was confused. I was like, wait, is it two stores?
Stores.
Okay, now let's talk about that other storefront on Prince Street. I really think that, you know, visualizing what that will look like with that gradient thing happening and then that white opaque thing. it doesn't, it's not a pretty picture.
It could be nice if the gradient goes up and then it's clear. That's the way it should be used. You don't put something really visually heavy on top of this really delicate thing.
Yeah,
I thought it was to hide mechanical equipment.
yeah, I wonder, that's why I thought too, maybe there's some practical.
That aesthetic with the large letters, I know we're focusing on that part, it just seems it's mixed message. Don't look in here, don't, you know, it's like.
Right, look, don't look.
Yeah, look,
Right.
don't look. Screaming, not screaming.
So shall we say that we approve the gradient
Film, it's just a film glass, yeah.
but not the opaque, white and
White, correct, above the.
Yeah, the
if you
transom.
will. It's not really a transom, but yeah.
that's what they were.
The higher,
Yeah,
but there's no,
right.
but what was the door next to it? On to the right of it, that
That's
also,
not the ADA door?
Is that the ADA entrance? At grade?
no, let me
Let's
just find
find
it,
it and.
because
see.
I
Mhm.
didn't
You mean the-
ask, but I didn't understand it, let's
In
see.
the one next to the bespoke
Hold
sign?
on. Let me just look here,
I think
oh,
one's just an egress, it's not an entrance. It looks like it's like,
Right, I think that's what that.
oh, it's already like that, it's like a solid door.
yeah, with no handle on the street side, right?
I thought it looked like it was shaded like the other one, so, okay, just leave it, it's fine, we don't care, it's already there. That
But they're not
rendering
touching
is confusing, if you see the photograph, Susan. You'll see that it's actually here, right here,
Oh, yeah.
it's like a solid metal door or
Yeah.
something.
So basically what we have to say, there is nothing about that door and that we are opposed to that white, opaque white on the upper.
And that is not there now, so I mean, they actually, but there is a drop portion here.
That they said it was, but that looks like it's like a shade or something, but no, I guess not. There is something there.
It looks like a drop ceiling behind it.
Yeah, but there isn't something, it's not as deep. And it's not in combination with the gradient.
They
film.
painted something beautiful. I mean, you can make something out of it with having depth, not frosted anything is really deadening. It really takes away, why have a window? It's almost like, to me, I really dislike frosted or.
Oh, I really agree, but I think that, I don't really.
This could be clear, I'm saying, and you do something with whatever it is that's behind it, because I think there's a drop ceiling behind it.
Well, but that's for them to figure out. I think for us
I'm
to
just
say,
saying.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Is to just be clear all the way up.
Let's say we deny that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement on that. Okie dokie. I think that's it on that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now 375 West Broadway. That's the
Mega elevator.
That's a 2-foot addition on the one elevator and then the 23 feet
But
on
it's
the
like a three-story
side.
building. Yeah, it's.
But there, I asked if there was currently any ADA access and there isn't, so that's a bad thing.
Well, we do have, having worked in this neighborhood for a long time, they would never approve this for the first part of my career. No elevator bulkhead enlargements, and now everybody's doing it.
Mhm.
So I don't think we're gonna win this round.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't make a big deal out of it either way, frankly.
What does
Because-
everybody else think? Yeah, I know. What does everybody else think?
It seemed like very tall was my impression. Taller than it needed to be. It looks like there was an option to make it smaller, but he did indicate that it was the cost, right? 30 to 40% more.
Yeah, well, that's the tricky part here is that there's an aspect where they are in process of discussion with their elevator consultant, clearly to offer another point of view on, what they could do, but yet it wasn't ready. And it sounded like that dialogue with the consultant was on the advice of LPC. So
Right.
LPC must not have been really too happy with that either.
Did they say what the structure was covered in? Is it white stucco or something? I don't remember.
See if it's in the application. I don't remember either.
I thought part was maybe brick. Wait, let me see.
Well, elevators are unforgiving. They don't let you go straight up and down. The equipment, you can't push it from below because it's too high. You have all that equipment up above. Offsetting it would cost a lot of money. I get that. Maybe have them explore the offset of the elevator machine room. And let's
Yeah,
have.
it sounded like there were options they weren't ready to present.
I got that feeling too. I'm sure their reticence has to do with cost, but that's not really what our concern.
That's true.
No,
That's
but-
true. We can't.
But it's a smallish building. I'm just being practical.
Yeah, no,
Elevators cost so much, but they're doing 2 elevators. That's a lot. Freight and passenger.
it looks like brick.
Brick
Uh-huh.
face.
So I don't think we want to out and out deny because that seems a little harsh and unrealistic. I don't know what Ballard.
Elevators.
Well, can't you approve, you could still put in there about.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I think we should do.
like, so that it's, at least we have it on the record of a.
Yeah, my question was,
Oh.
do we want an out and out denial? That was my question. So are you in favor of an out and out denial?
Or tide it over until they show us other.
My instinct is to just ask for other options and to
Yeah,
say
slide it
that
over.
kind of unconvinced that all other options have been explored.
Yeah, could we have them come back once they
And
have
ask
the other
them to come-
option?
And ask them to come back.
Also, it bothered me because I do like to look at the presentations before the meeting, and this was an incomplete application that they sent us. Now, maybe Flo sent something and I didn't open it, but the one on the website, on our website, there were no mock-ups, it missed a lot of information. So they obviously were pushing it to get.
This, how about deny because of due to the extreme visibility, and ask that the applicant return with a proposal that somewhat modifies the extreme visibility here, and that, mentioning that the applicant referenced an ongoing conversation with the elevator consultant, and, there's still some missing pieces here.
And
Yeah, and it sounded like LPC was also asking them to.
That's what my sense was too, Jean, yeah.
I got the impression that there were other options and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and
and
they
if you
just-
think
they
of it,
just
the
didn't get them
building
in
is,
time.
the building is maybe 70 feet tall. This thing is 30 feet tall.
Oh,
It's
wow.
almost half the size of the height of the building.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So proportionally.
All hat, no cowboy.
That's good. It's also one of the unfortunate things in all of these Soho buildings is that those elevators are right up against the street.
Because they used to open onto the street, right?
Yeah, that's where they were put and that's where they remain. So that's why we have that issue again and again.
But it sounded like there was an option to move the machine room somewhere else, offset it.
Well, we'd like to see that option.
Yeah.
And if they can't afford
And
it,
other options that we may not, we're not
elevators go up and down. That's it.
We're not elevator specialists, but yeah, so we'll approve the 2-foot increase in
On the
the,
other
on the other elevator and deny this and encourage them to come back, but not deny the idea of an elevator or an increase in in the elevator height, but just less of an increase and ask them to come back having explored that.
with some alternatives, yeah.
Yeah. Does that sound fair enough?
I think so, and I think the applicant sounded like they were that, I don't think they'll be surprised.
No, I don't think so either. And, that's the truth. We're certainly not, we understand that an elevator there is inevitably going to be visible and,
Yes,
somewhat visible, that's just what it is, but that's just a question of degree here. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Okay. Degree of visibility. Okay. Unless there's is there any new business?
I'll just bring up that there's that hearing on Monday, the 19th. Tuesday, I have in my head that Monday the 19th, sorry. The LPC is gonna be doing their proposed rules for the outdoor dining. Seems to be very similar to how they handled it in the old sidewalk cafe program, where it's just anything that touches the building in a historic district of a sidewalk cafe will be referred from DOT to LPC. It seems to be that.
Is that on Tuesday, you said? What time?
Tuesday at 9:30 a.m.
So the thing that trips it over to LPC is an actual physical connection to the building.
Yeah, it has to be the awning or, all of these different type of things. It's on there.
Although, even though it's a wall.
Right.
In front of our beautiful historic buildings.
Right, and then to update this group in terms of the timing of when something might potentially get referred. It sounds like we are a month and a half out, 2 months out maybe, of actually like the board in general receiving its portion of these. So that's my understanding is like while the application portal is open for the dining out NYC sidewalk and roadway cafe applications, the interface for an administrator type of view being the community boards is not yet built. So they are working on that. And they're going to be training. Like that might be done in a few weeks or whatnot, but it's also going to take them some time to actually get through the applications to then refer them to us. So, yeah, it's just going a little, but yeah, that's it. So I imagine
Thanks for that.
Yeah, just so you guys know.
Yeah, appreciate it, Valerie. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think then we're done.
So wrap.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night, guys.
All right.